Hey guys, welcome to our 5 is 1 podcast. And with that being said, this is episode 15, Gerald. How about this, man? We're getting up well into double digits, and we got a big one going on today.
Yeah, we do. We got some friends finally able to get on. They said they wanted to talk about it. It's going to be FYX Sports. Somebody that we've been throwing you guys little taglines with our sponsors. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're excited to have Chris Clark and Dalton White, both two guys that we met through training here in Colorado. Chris is an accomplished strength coach and ex-football player, so we're going to talk some ball, Division I football player. When Chris started FYX and kind of his vision. And we want to get into kind of how the training component, how it's all going to kind of steer itself into maybe guys that are finishing the season and how we can put a good plan together for guys finishing their season, getting things rolling. And then also we're going to have Dalton White, who is also a strength coach at FYX and is now at UC Irvine as one of the basketball strength coaches. So we got a little cross-promotional deal going on, multiple sports, talking football, basketball. These guys have worked with Olympic athletes, so we're excited for this podcast. Gerald, what's left to be said other than our tagline?
And with that being said, let's get this going.
And with that being said,
with that being said,
I'm really thankful I got that chance to go play at K-State.
With that being said, thank you all.
And with that being said,
I am. Hey.
with that being said,
hey guys, welcome to our 5 is 1 podcast with special guests from FYX Sports. We've got Chris Clark and Dalton White in the house today. So, first off, Gerald, man, you got anything new and exciting? What's going on in Colorado these days? We've got all these kids in the middle of the season. Anything your way that's happening?
You know, what I'd have to say is exciting is that we're getting close to the end of in-season training. I love in-season training. I do. But there's a point where, you got to start pulling back. I would say both Dalton and Clark, they understand what I'm saying, where you can't just burn kids out. For training wise, it's okay. I'm fine to stretch with the guys, get things like that. But I come in there some days like I really want to get going. I really want to have fun. So we're getting closer to that off season, and we'll be in FYX Sports, which is probably the best thing. This is a good moment for me to do our sponsorship. Since FYX is here, I think I should do it right now, right? So here we go. FYX Sports, being in Monument, Colorado, FYX Sports is one of the number one sports facilities. Take your skills to the next level with proper training and muscle activation, nutrition, physical therapy, and sports performance. So with that being said, look at us. We got FYX here. Let's talk.
I love it, man. This is awesome. And both these guys I met both Chris Clark and Dalton White at FYX as my kids started their training at the high school level and for multiple sports. And I think that's the thing with finding more well-rounded athletes out there. That's what, as a college coach, I always wanted guys that weren't just a one-trick pony, that they can play multiple positions. And Dalton, you've worked with a number of different sports. Clark, you've seen a lot of guys come through your facility. But first, before we kind of get into all that, I wanted to do a little bit of an intro because, Chris, you played at TCU. I actually, looking back at our years, I think I might have coached against you when you were at TCU. What were your years that you were under Coach Gary Patterson over there at TCU?
I got there in 03 was my first year, and my last season was 06 season. So okay. 2003, 2004 were our last 2 years in the Conference USA, and then we made that jump to the Mountain West in 05. And so 05, 06, my junior senior years, we were there. And then about 5 years later, that's when they made the big jump to the Big 12, and everything's history since then. But yeah, 2 years on Mountain West.
Yeah, you guys kind of rolled the Mountain West for a while. I remember when I was coaching at San Diego State, we went into Fort Worth, and they've got like they've got like that little thing in the end zone that has all the horns, and it's like It goes off every time they score. It's like this.
Yeah, we call it the frog horn. It's actually a converted train engine, whistle, whatever. Because Fort Worth's cow town, so that's all the cow. When trains were invented, that's all the cows came in, or excuse me, went out of Cowtown. They all got, herded in from West Texas, where the ranches were. They brought them to Cowtown. They weighed them, branded them, and then they sold them off. And then they went on the trains on up to, Kansas City, Chicago, get slaughtered and feed the people. So yeah, that's the Froghorn.
Well, I think they ran out of gas on the Froghorn because you guys were rolling. I want to say it was in the high 50s that the Horned Frogs put it on the Aztecs that day. So bad memories in that stadium. But Clark, give us a little bit of your background. After playing at TCU under Coach Patterson, you went into the military for a little while and served our country. So thank you for that. Give us a little background on military and then kind of where you've been since then to bring you up to speed now.
Yeah, so like you said, after graduating, went to the military, went active duty. So I was doing ROTC at the same time. I was in college and playing football, and then went straight to active duty. Started out with my officer basic course up at Fort Knox. So we'll learn how to be a tank commander as well as a recon platoon leader. Learned all the tactics of that, or both of those. And then before I came to Colorado, which was my first duty station, actually stopped at Fort Benning because they decided they wanted to send me to Ranger School. Even though I wanted to go to Pathfinder School, they said go to Ranger School instead. So went and did that, and then got to Colorado. 4 months later, I had a platoon. I had a recon platoon, and then we went to Iraq. So over the course of 8 years, was a recon platoon leader in Iraq, and then I was a operations planner for the brigade, which would be about a 5,000 person organization. So I spent about half that deployment planning operations, combat operations in Kandahar, switch sides of planning. And I went over to the engineer cell to help with the planning of closing tactical infrastructure long term. And then after that, being back, did another train up at Carson. This time I switched over. They had me, long story kind of shorter, switching over to a different branch. And basically I flew a desk for like my last 3 years in the military. We did one more tour to Kuwait. Actually were there in the desert when ISIS kind of started popping off up in Iraq. And we actually, during our return back, as we're starting to piecemeal the brigade back home, we actually got sent back into Iraq. So I think we were the first regular Army units to go back into Iraq since major combat operations had ended and everything. But then, yeah, we came back from that. I got out of the military, and then that's when I went to I got out and I started coaching high school football here, coach at Palmer Ridge, where a lot of our are at right now. That's kind of got my fire and my passion for coaching, and especially football, kind of relit. And so did that. And then during that time, I was also applying for grad school. To my surprise, I got into Northwestern University.
God bless you.
Did that. And yeah, so I think no, we did not beat Nebraska that year. No, they came up and they did what Nebraska normally does. But when I got up there, I wanted to stay in football, and I got onto Pat Fitzgerald's staff. So I sent an email over to Coach Patterson. I told him, hey, this is what I'm doing, and any way you can just give him a heads up, let him know, like, I'm just trying to find a place. And so I compared it to walking on. I walked onto the coaching staff, and yeah, so I did about half a year of recruiting. Which is kind of cool because when I look at some college rosters, even some NFL rosters, I'm like, I tried recruiting that guy. So it's kind of cool. And then I got some GA time in, coaching wide receivers. And then it really kind of came to a decision point right around graduation time was, did I want to stay on that, magic carpet ride that is college coaching, or do I want to come back to Colorado and build FYX, and that's so I called Jason Dill, my partner, and we made the decision. I said, hey, because we talked about it before I left, and he's like, absolutely, still want to do it. So I was like, all right, we'll move back to Colorado, we'll build FYX, and kind of the rest is history there.
That's awesome, man. You've been a lot of different places. You've been around some great people, and that's why I think it's, you said you tried to recruit certain people. Like I tried to recruit Gerald. I couldn't quite, get it done, but I ended up being able to coach him years later down the road in the XFL. And it's all, this business is all about relationships and good people. And that's the thing that I think why we love training our guys at FYX is because of the relationships, because of the coaching experience that you have, kind of the way that we want to train our players, the way that we want to train our clients, and the plan that we have moving forward to incorporate the strength training component to it. And got a chance to meet Dalton and get to know him while really my oldest son Walker was training there, getting ready to go into his junior and senior year. And Dalton, you've worked with a ton of different sports also. You've got a wide background, right? Went to Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You bet.
Went to Minnesota, got your degree there in kinesiology, and then kind of what brought you back to Colorado, and give us a little bit of kind of your journey and what brings you to being at the Division I level coaching now.
Yeah. First off, thank you, both Gerald and Jonathan, for having me here. It's good to be back on meeting with Clark. We didn't do a lot of those back in our day when we worked together, but here we are. So, yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin. Never really knew what I wanted to do when I grew up, but throughout college, I found personal training, and found that I could coach athletes in the finer points of strength and conditioning, and make a decent living out of it. So once I found out there was an opportunity there, same stories. You start calling people, texting people. You have no idea how to get a hold of anyone. Not even supposed to be in half the buildings I'm in. It's just like, sneak your way in, stay till everyone else is gone. Don't get locked out, that kind of stuff. I did that for University of Minnesota with the basketball program for 1 year. And then I moved out to Colorado to go to grad school in Colorado Springs. Had like 2 months of downtime. So I got an internship with the Colorado State football program there. Mike Bobo was the head coach when I was working there under Coach Ryan Davis was the head strength and conditioning coach. So I owe those guys a lot to where I'm at today. And then I owe Chris and Jason at FYX everything for me being able to be where I'm at today, coaching at the Division I level. I spent 4 awesome years in the private sector at FYX Sports, and just kind of working my way through grad school for the first half of that. Taught a little bit, coached some hockey programs. Majority of my work that I got to have was with the private sector clients at FYX. And I just think it was the best learning experience for me all the way around. You get to work with, on any given day, I would have a 6-year-old figure skater, a 78-year-old personal training client, this young boy named Matthew who was he had Down syndrome, had an Olympic gold medalist in there, and a semi-retired professional baseball player. And then 10, 15 high school, middle school kids every hour on top of that. It was a great learning experience. Like 99% of what I get to use every single day, I get to owe to Chris and Jason at FYX, and getting to work with Walker and Tyler. Like both, I learned something from everyone the whole way through. Now I'm at UC Irvine. I spent about a year, wanted to get back into team sports. So I took an unpaid internship at the University of Colorado Boulder. So that's when I was doing the commute back and forth between Colorado Springs and Boulder for about 7 months. Got to work with their basketball program and landed this job out at UC Irvine. We were co-champions of the regular season last year, lost in our postseason tournament. So our eyes are set on March Madness this year, and we just got rolling on practice about 2 weeks ago. So we're right back in the middle of things.
I appreciate you jumping on, man. I know how busy those guys are right now. I mean, schedule is crazy. I mean, Gerald, Chris, you guys lived it, how crazy the college Division I schedule is. I mean, my son's dealing with it right now. He's going with 6 a.m. workouts. He's got 4 classes. He's got tutor. He's got nutrition. He's got practice meetings, all that stuff. Like, it's hard to squeeze everything in when you want to play at a high level. And Dalton, like you guys have your eyes set on March Madness. I mean, that is like the epitome of what college basketball, you want to be in that tournament. You want to have that opportunity. And there's been a great tradition at Irvine. And so how much have you seen like a transition going to kind of the culture there? How much is the strength and performance staff incorporated with the coaching staff in just your short time that you've been there, going on your second year right now?
Yeah, I would say the biggest change for me was not me being any busier. Like I love work. I love what I get to do every day. And I think it's a blessing that I get to wake up and go coach athletes. So whether it's a 4 a.m., a 3 a.m. alarm clock, none of that really bothers me. But I do know it bothers our guys from time to time. So I think the biggest thing for me, our program with our schedule, is just getting people where they need to be and on time. It is probably easier with the football program because you have so many people. It's just this mass of people. We're going to meetings, we're going to walk through, we're at weights this time. And I think with our program, we're a mid-major program, so we're not a Power 5 Division I program. We get to do more with maybe a little bit less resources, but at the end of the day, you still show up and the work is the same. It doesn't matter if we're using $10,000 force plates out in the weight room or a old rusty barbell. The work is the same. And really just trying to teach kids that the hard work is okay. It's okay to be busy, because those are the lessons that you're going to take on in life. And I hope, most coaches across the United States probably think this way. It's like, I'm not trying to develop people to just be good for me. I want them to be great men and women in society after they're done playing too. So the accountability, the showing up when you don't want to, doing things that you don't want to have to do, you're going to see that every day of your life, especially after you're done with sports. So really trying to set kids up for the success that direction, along with just physical, more robust, healthier athletes long term.
Yeah, and like you said, real quick, when sometimes those rusty plates and bars, sometimes those weigh a little bit more than all
what it is?
shiny stuff.
Oh yeah.
When you get some calluses on your hands, when you're having to do things a little bit, it's not always catered to you. Sometimes you get a little bit more grit, a little bit more toughness when you're out there scrapping and clawing and doing all the things that it's not just spoon-fed to you. Chris, I wanted to hit you.
I think those barbells are heavier because they're in kilos.
Like, we're just making up stuff now. Now we're just doing whatever we want. We're gonna make this the hardest day in the outside. I got barbells. They're rested almost to the ground.
Hey, just makes you a little tougher. That's where I'm going, man. Makes you a little tougher when you're a little scrappier, throwing some of those old school weights that maybe don't match up the right way. Like
There's a lot to be said about that. There's a lot to be said about that. I think I don't know. Hopefully no one from my team doesn't hear this, but I know that they hired me because I do have a little bit of that grit being from Wisconsin, a little bit, put your head down and work type of guy. And I know they're trying to get me to help instill that in our team. And that's just the culture is like, it's like California. I don't know, like whatever it is out here. You guys lived here longer than I have to this point, but we're just trying to make some tough kids out here. And I think that's mental, that's physical, that's spiritual, that's wherever you can take it, try to be the toughest.
That's it. And it's about the discipline of training. And that's, Clark, I wanted to bring you in, Chris, about what our plans are here at FYX. Like, we've been training kids in the Colorado Springs Monument area probably we're probably about a year and a half now with the clients that we've got coming in. And we've got guys playing in Division I football. We've got guys playing Division III. We've got middle school kids that come in and train with us. But our vision is not only just what the kids are getting from Gerald and I, with the coaching from a guy that's played at Nebraska, a guy that's played in the NFL, a guy that's, myself, I have 25 years of coaching experience with every single level. But the technique can only take you so far, but really you have to have those building blocks of the training component. And kind of, Clark, we got together, we sat down and we tried to put a plan together for how kids can build themselves up here at your facility using our training a couple times a week. We'll usually train with guys twice a week to get some technique work. But they need to get the strength training. They need to get the flexibility. We need to talk about nutrition. We need to talk about recovery. And kind of, Chris, do you want to take a little bit of this and kind of what your vision is for the off-season program at FYX for the middle school and high school athletes that we're training with 5 as 1?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first two, kind of the two biggest components to address that, coming out of a season and having, middle school to high school developmental stages. I think the number one most important thing is to ensure that we're analyzing biomechanics properly. Because you look at, they're coming out of football season. Football is kind of our gig, but we're training athletes, and I think that should be addressed. Number one is their athleticism, and then number two is the demand of their sport, and maybe more specifically their position. So, kind of looking at those more so, probably especially so for our middle school athletes, looking at addressing biomechanics, good movement, doing what the body is designed to do, and being able to do it well, and then kind of look at adding weight. And same thing with our high school athletes, but more so there's a little bit more, obviously more physical demand the higher level you go, speed, strength, power, and being able to absorb all that as well. So I think number one coming out of season, no matter how long, how short it is being healthy, getting the body the rest and the recovery that it needs. And, that looks like 10 days of sitting on the couch doing nothing except, getting up and doing a little bit of flexibility and going, walking the dog because you haven't done it all football season. But giving that body the time to recover, and then kind of start, reconditioning, if you will, for resistance training and some of that stuff. And then it's kind of full tilt. We start going, and what we're looking at with our winter off season program is kind of that first 2 weeks of reintegration, if you will, and then about a 10, maybe 12-week program. And really, it's a lot of volume what we're going to be looking at. I have found that high volume has done a lot to grow the body for the sport of football, for the game of football, in terms of strength, mass, and size as well. And then I think some of the lessons learned coming out of having done so much of that, both as an athlete and doing it as a coach as well, is finding some of the appropriate movements, especially fast movements, because pushing heavy weight and getting that 1 rep max up is great. But if we have to go back and kind of retrain to be athletic, then it's almost time that we've lost because we have to go back and redo it. I'd rather just stay athletic and develop athleticism and strength and power as we go through that 12-week program. So it's kind of been a long journey, many years of experience, but also finding that kind of the weak points in the program and making it better. And so that's kind of what we're going to be looking at for about 3 months. And this program that we did without the tweaks, we did this last winter, and across the board. And we had guys like Jackson St. Aubin who came in, we're doing, having not lifted in like 2 months, came in and benched like 340 pounds or something ridiculous like that, and still increasing by about 11% on his bench press, which if you do the math, that's still a lot of weight. Doesn't seem like a lot when you just talk about percentages, but when you're multiplying by that much weight, it was still a big jump for him. But across the board, I think on average about 13% in every single lift category that we measured from the start to the end of that program. So yeah, great results, and I'm looking to see even better ones this round coming.
And it's one of the things, Gerald, sorry to jump in, like trying to create a plan. There's no just one plan for everybody, because we're going to have kids that are coming in with great background, different ages. I mean, we see from the ages that we're training with. I mean, Gerald, you brought it up before, the kids that are just training and maybe lifting weights for the very first time, and then you're training a senior in high school that might be getting ready to move on and go to college. Like, we have to coach them different. Gerald, you've had some experiences with that just for the last couple months training with these guys.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even know if you'd say humbling on what you think you know. Just because you're so used to doing something doesn't mean that you know how to coach it. You don't know how to explain it to other people. And yeah, that's what this last off season really was for me, which was great. There was a point that I was trying to make while you were talking. It was we were going through the as kids are in their season, the things that they have to do to keep their bodies recovered, keep them safe and all this stuff. I always have to tell all these young guys, and they don't believe me completely, but I think both of you two, you'll understand what I'm saying here about stretching, right? A lot of these young guys, they think like, okay, just because I can wake up the next day from my game, if it's basketball, if it's football, and they'll be fine right now. Okay, but let me take you into your 20s. Let me get you into the years that you're trying to make this your profession. I promise you, you can't just wake up the next day from a hard workout without having to do your right stretching, getting yourself warm, getting yourself all lathered up so you're able to do it again and again. Just talking about, prevention. If you guys have anything, Dalton, you can start us off on just prevention, just to keep yourself out there playing, right?
Yeah, I think it starts off with routine. It's trying to build habits with our athletes, whether it be 13-year-olds or 21-year-olds. I think young men and women generally know what the right decisions to make are. They know they should wake up in the morning and go stretch, but it's that same thing, fighting that negative momentum and doing something that you know is going to be good for your body. That I think is like the biggest habits to start building in athletes, whether that be their recovery, their mobility, just showing up in strength training every day. But building those pre-practice routines, those morning routines. If you're really trying to take this and have it be your profession, like, you got to treat it like you're a professional. You have to go in and get in the ice tub. Like, I don't care if you don't want to today, just go in and get in the ice bath. You know it's going to be the best thing for you tomorrow. So from my perspective, those are some of the battles I'm fighting. Coach Saban had a great point about this. He said our athletes have the illusion of choice. If they want to be great, I know what they have to do, and they're going to have to do what I know they need to do. But they have the illusion of choice nowadays, that this might be the right thing. This might be the right thing with everything they see on the internet and everything else. At the end of the day, just sitting down, stretching, doing the simple things and doing them right more often than not, I think you're going to get way more progress, stay out on the field longer, and be healthier for a longer career. Just finding the things that work for you and being relentlessly consistent with them.
Definitely. Clark, you got anything to add on to that? Hold on for a second. Here he is.
Yeah, well, Dalton talks about, try to create habit. And look, if you ever in FYX, you see our flags on the wall. I mean, we've got some flags. I mean, we got obviously Kentucky, but LSU, Arkansas, we got some, obviously SEC athletes who have been there, Michigan, Ohio State, Texas now. And then the D1 AA's and the Division twos. Like, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Those flags on the wall, because those are the athletes who have been through here, who are now there or have been there. And I'll say the common denominator with all of them was that training was a habit, and it wasn't just showing up. And that's a start. That's where you need to start making that habit. I got to get to the weight room. Once you're there, okay, get after it. I mean, you don't just show it to practice just to get through it. You want to be perfect in your plays. You want to be perfect in execution. You should want to be a hard worker, but you should want to be a hard worker in not just working, in getting better. I think if you look at what is most consistent with the athletes who have gone on to those high levels, or higher levels, it's that the common denominator on the thing they all had in common was that they were in the weight room and training 4 or 5 times a week, doing the proper things to recover. That's why they're where they are at. And And in some instances, that's why some people are not. And there's a big learning curve. When you get there, and adult, you've seen it in your athletes when they first show up. They've probably been used to, I'll show up, 2 days a week, and I'll just be in my weights class that I have to go to because it's on my schedule, and that's what I do. And then all of a sudden, you're having to wake up at 5 a.m. and be in the weight room and throw some major weight around. I can tell you, I know what it's like to show up on day one and look around the weight room and say, yeah, I think I'm benching with the kickers today. I'll tell you that happened once, and there were some people who made sure that didn't happen again. But and that was kind of the learning curve for me from a standpoint of where I was physically to where I really needed to be. And there was a lot of growth that happened in that first year. For some people, that growth was maybe not physical, but it was attitude and getting there and doing the things you needed to do when you got there.
Yeah, taking your performance on the field taking your recovery off the field as serious as you take your performance on the field. That's such a big thing. And I think a lot of guys, like you were saying, the people that have the flags on the wall throughout your facilities, those are the guys that understood that at a young age. Those are the guys that you're going to find at the D1, D1 AA, all the schools around the nation, because they just understand, okay, sure, I have to be great on this field, but I only get, if we talk about our timeline in football, right, I only get maybe a point of the 1% of the time that I'm spending on my craft to actually play it in a game. So I got to take the recovery, which is usually about half of what I'm doing in my practices. I got to be able to use that time the best I can. So, yeah, that was great.
No, I think in talking about how the game has evolved, not only from a coaching standpoint, if you're not trying to continually grow as a coach, you're going to get left behind. And same as a trainer, same as in the strength and conditioning world, same with nutrition. And I think the game has changed. Really, it's changed a ton with the more information that's prevalent to our athletes. And if you're not a sponge looking to try to find a way to get better, if you're a guy that or an athlete that people have to drag to training, look, pretty soon you're going to get left behind. You have to have that discipline, that motivation to do the things, to find the information that you need. And I just wanted to send a quick shout out to one of our other sponsors, guy that I met just a few months ago, Clint Anderson. He has a training company called Lineman Performance Academy in Dallas when I was coaching in the XFL down there. And he works with Lane Johnson, and he was kind of his go-to. He created this gym, and now he's got patents on a ton of actual things that we'll utilize in our training with 5 as 1, with his torque wheel to work stability and strike training, and also the soup bone to kind of work with some of the other things for guys working hip mobility and extension. And I just wanted to thank Clint for sending us some of the equipment that he uses with his 5 Strong training with Lineman Performance Academy. And we continue to use those. But I've got a couple other sponsors that I have to kind of throw. Maybe it's a good transition to talk about the nutrition.
You're gonna time them in there, bam, bam, bam.
I'm gonna throw all these sponsors at the same time. But the nutrition fact, I think the component is big. And so when I was coaching in the XFL in Texas this past year, we would take the offensive line over to Vaqueros Texas Barbecue, and the guys would love having the barbecue. And got a shout out to Trey and his staff, to Vaqueros, a family tradition since 1979 that they hooked the Arlington Renegades up and the XFL champions. But also right next door was the Hop and Sting Brewery that we have to, shout out. They took good care of us also. They were voted the best brewery in Dallas-Fort Worth area for 6 years running. And Chris, the Fort Worth area, you probably, found some really good restaurants and places to hang out when you were at TCU. But want to thank them for all that they do for my guys when I'm coaching them. But like nutrition-wise, recovery-wise, I mean, I'm hearing stories from Walker when he's at Kentucky just about how the meals are already planned out. Like they're giving them vitamins, like all these things and the nutritionists that are on staff and the staff that they have in the strength and performance area. And it's all about making the most of each day, of each workout, but also the recovery aspect and the hydration and the nutrition. Dalton, I know you're dealing with it currently, coaching teams right now. Chris, you've dealt with it. Gerald, you've seen it from your time in Nebraska and in the NFL playing. Like, how much, Dalton, do you have just a couple minutes to talk about how it's changed, how nutrition, how recovery and hydration, all those things are tying it together? It's not just show up in the weight room. It's what you do before and what you do after that's going to help you maximize your potential.
You bet. When I took this job, I thought 90% of my day was going to be sitting at my computer, typing up the best program that's ever been written. Got that. That's fine. And then go out and coach it. That might be 5% of my day nowadays, like running around, chasing people down, trying to make sure everything's just right. So to your point, college sports might as well be professional sports these days with the level of access and the resources that a lot of the athletes have available to them. Definitely your Power 5 Division I schools, they'll have everything for these kids to take advantage of. And that's really what it comes down to then. If it's not as structured as Kentucky has Walker's football program or day scheduled, it's either up to the athlete to make the most out of their day, and then you can see who your hard workers are going to be, who's searching for the next thing that they can do, and then you kind of get a read for your team on who might need a better push in the proper direction. Things that we utilize on a daily basis for recovery, I guess just in my travel bag that I'm get to take with on the road, we have an ice tub that I get to set up and make sure guys get their ice baths in. We have our ice tubs in the training room up here as well when we're not on the road. Heat, vibration, bands we're stretching with all the time. We just had a international tour in Taiwan this summer with the men's basketball program here. We had to play 8 games in 9 days. So they threw that in my lap and we're like, all right, make sure no one gets hurt. Make sure everyone's recovered. Make sure we're all good to go for tomorrow. So I learned a lot about what our guys in these high school, college, middle school athletes are going to be more resilient than they think they are. They're always able to do more than they think they can do. And I think it's our jobs as coaches to frame it in a way that they're confident enough to accept the challenge that we put in front of them and then to go execute. Because I always tell an athlete, I'll never put you in a position that I don't think you can be successful in, whether that's putting an extra 5 pounds on the bar, going for a new PR in a sprint, whatever it is. Like, I know you can do this. Now you just have to believe in yourself and go out and actually do that. So setting up the belief for athletes, I think, kind of goes into building those habits as well. It's more about the psychology of the kids that we're coaching these days, getting them to buy into what we're selling, our recovery, our training, rather than it is probably exactly what the information is on the paper. I don't think the program is as big of a deal as it is the person that's delivering it. I think that means that makes the biggest difference in the world. And the last thing I'll say on that is all of those cliches that coaches use, they're all a cliche for a reason. They've been said a million times because they're true. We just had one come up the other day in practice. How you do anything is how you do everything. So those are things that I probably rolled my eyes at as an athlete, and now being in coaching and you guys all having more coaching experience than me, probably understand that to the 1000th degree, that if we can just get these kids to understand that, buy into your recovery, buy into your training, eat like an adult. That's one that a lot of kids don't do. They don't know how to eat properly, either because they haven't been taught in school or by their family. But that's the thing I'm fighting with on a daily basis here. It's like, what are good foods to put in your body? What's going to get you right for the next practice, for the next workout? And we were just lucky enough to have a dietitian, sports dietitian get on staff here. So none of that's my problem anymore.
He said, it's off my plate, baby. No,
hey, did you keep them all healthy with the 8 games in 9 days? Did
we
you
went with 16 available athletes and came back with 17. So we did a damn good job.
Came back with 17 full recruiting.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, we had one guy coming off a knee injury, and we got some little telehealth clearance. He passed our fitness test, and he was able to play our last 2 games over there.
I thought you picked up
transfer
some
portal.
Taiwanese I was like,
Hey, if they can get buckets,
he's got to grab.
I'll listen as long as you can go get a hoop. You're good.
I love it. Hey, Chris, you've seen training change since, you were an athlete, and then through your education, what you've seen being at TCU, being at Northwestern, what you've seen just with how the athletes have changed. Like, you got to take on kind of the whole package rather than just the strength training.
Yeah, it's been 20 years since I first showed to play college football, and it's kind of funny because athletes, college football players, have been one giant science experiment for a while. When I showed up, and we were where, University of Texas and LSU and Oklahoma and USC were at that point in time, compared to where TCU is now. Our sports nutritionist dietitian was our head strength coach. And so it was a little meatheadish, to say the least, but it was a lot better than what I was doing at the time and what probably any athlete was doing at the time. Looking back with Dalton's comment about it, they haven't taught how to eat properly, whether it's to their coaching or if it's family. I was extremely fortunate. My mom's a master dietitian, so we had nutrition, and eating well was not a problem in our house. So not everyone comes from that same background. And even now, like at the high school level, just strength coaching football, and then the access to the resources of a sports nutritionist you might have now in places like in some places in Texas, you might have a dietitian on staff for like the district. And so that person may service 3 or 4 high schools. But it's still way more than where it was 20 years ago. So going along with the evolution of what I've seen, I show up, I know I haven't been eating enough and training enough. I show up, and my big, scary 6'4" strength conditioning coach is, okay, if there's a point in time you're not doing something, you need to be eating. And if you find yourself not doing something and you're not eating, you're wrong. At that point in time, it was, don't worry about eating the right stuff. Just eat something, eat anything. And that's kind of what I see with the high school athletes. And quite honestly, it's kind of frustrating because it's not that hard to eat. If you look at, you're getting 3 semi-decent meals in, let's just say you're getting 1,000 calories in those meals. If you get 100 calories every hour that you're awake, you're getting about 1,200, 1,500 extra calories. So that's a whole meal and a half at that rate, what they're doing. And how easy is it? A Chewy bar is 90 calories. I can wolf down a Chewy bar in about 4 seconds. So it's not that hard to get, that many calories. It may sound like a lot, but when you space out over a day, it's not that hard. So that was one thing I learned.
Hey, Gerald, how many Chewy bars can you eat? Gerald?
The funniest thing, he said that, and I was like, God damn. I found myself, I remember back in football, I found myself with just like one of the 24 packs, just sitting there like, I had one. I was like, oh, I'll have another.
You got to fuel the engine, man.
Came back, the whole thing, it's all over me. I didn't know where I was at anymore. I was out in Taiwan with the kids.
Get out there. Gerald, were you a lineman that had to eat to maintain playing weight? Or were you a lineman that had to kind of watch what they had to eat to maintain playing weight?
I was lucky enough that I was the O-lineman that was just 300 pounds.
Oh, you did perfect. Nice.
I was just there. I just didn't move. I didn't go up. I didn't really go down. I mean, there are some days where people be like, "Oh, you're under 300 pounds." I'm like, "No, I got this still. I'm not baby yet." Which I me being one of the people to say, "Gerald, you're looking pretty skinny today." Was that 290? Is that 290, Gerald? No, that's still 300. It's just I got all black on today. It's one of those.
You were just moving fast, looking slim. So, hey, Gerald, really, like, what was the most you ever weighed? Like at your NFL when you were playing at the highest level, or were you a guy that, hey, I'm going to be right around 305, 300? Did you feel like you needed to pack weight on when you went to the NFL?
No. I think I was the heaviest in college. Heaviest in college at 325. That was probably the heaviest I ever got. When I got to the league, I think I lost. I think I dropped because I came in probably about 318. I think I dropped down to 300 on the dot. and I was just staying at 300. But that was just to try to keep up with, the guys that I was around. I mean, you got Brandon Sheriff who's floating across the O line, just back and forth, and he does the rep, and then they're like, okay, you do it too. That guy, that's okay. That's who I'm supposed to be today. I gotta be this monster. But yeah, no, I think that I think at least when you get to that next level, when you start getting into the highest level of football of all sports, it's really about the ability to move, your ability to be in the right spot more than you having to give, some crazy hit or all this power behind it. As long as you're in a great spot, you've been working yourself the way you're supposed to work yourself, you're going to be in a good spot for the game. Cart, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, we cut you off, man. We're talking about kids trying to eat, and then we got Gerald
He said
off on
Chewy bars. And
You said Chewy bars. You ruined this. That was. I'm blaming it on you. I don't want to take the blame today.
Chewy bars were an easy target. So, but yeah, so at that point for me, it was about getting calories. Just eat, and we don't care what you eat, but just eat. And now we didn't have the access. We didn't have walk into the football facilities and there's a fuel station. It basically, it's a freaking 7-Eleven and it's free. You can take whatever you want. When I showed up to Northwestern, when I was on staff, we had one of those. I was like, okay, this is way different. It would have been so easy for me to gain weight. And the crazy thing is we had players at Northwestern that were struggling to maintain and gain weight. And we're not talking like guys who were 300 and they're struggling to maintain 300. We're talking guys who are like 205 playing linebacker. Why is he at 195 this week? We're only in week 3. Why is he losing weight? So it's, to the point about access and resources, you can have it all there, but if you're not getting your athletes to do it, then what's it worth? And so that was just something that happened for me. I did it. I was one of those athletes who just did it. Coach said do it, then do it. And I think at one point in time, I was probably wolfing down 8,000 calories a day. Where as it relates to the level that we're at with those middle school, high school athletes, yeah, we want to eat, but what's the why? What's the reason why? The building blocks of life. You can't gain weight if you don't have it. But the biggest thing is energy. It's your fuel source. And if you don't have the fuel source in you, you're not going to perform. If you're not going to perform, what's the point? And with that fuel source, the other thing that people don't realize is the first thing that your body breaks down and uses as energy that comes out of you is your muscle. You use that. You spend all that time building that lean muscle mass. That's the first thing to go, because it's easier for the body to break down and convert to energy. Yeah, eventually you're gonna break down fat, but you're taking away from your performance the things that are make you fast and strong and powerful, and the things that are going to keep you going 10 weeks, 12 weeks into the season. So that's the other big aspect of nutrition. And I tell my athletes at this level, it's not nutrition for nutrition, it's nutrition for fueling your body for what it needs to do. When you get to college and you're at that higher level and you've got 3 master degree dietitian and sports nutritionists, they can tell you much more specifically about what you should and shouldn't be eating. My job right now is just to get you to fuel your body to do what it needs to do. But where you get to that next level, and Walker can attest to this, being at Kentucky, his nutrition intake is regimented probably to the hour. That's stuff 20 years ago. Probably we didn't see that anywhere south of the NFL. At that professional level. Now you're getting it at that Power 5, Division I college football level, and you look at the other sports. Basketball is probably getting it too. Baseball, I can tell you, University of Arkansas, Dalton and I, we've been at a couple of seminars where their strength coach and strength staff has been there. I mean, that place, you talk about strength conditioning staff on being on point for Division I baseball. I mean, I can guarantee they're probably doing the same stuff there. So, yeah, it's not just football, and it's not just those high levels. Everything trickles down, and eventually it gets to everybody else. One of these days, maybe we'll be there at the high school level. But right now, we're just, hey, we're just trying to put fuel in the tank at this point.
Question for you. I'm a parent of a multi-sport athlete. You guys want to start doing training at FYX with 5 as 1. You're going to do strength training. You're going to do nutrition. You're going to work on strength, stretch, recovery, the whole deal. But my kid plays another sport. Like, give me the reasons why I should come and do work with your plan at FYX. If I'm a kid that's in the area, maybe middle, I might be a sophomore. All of a sudden, I'm thinking about doing basketball. I'm going to wrestle, or I'm doing a spring sport. Like, I played multiple sports. I want my kids to play multiple sports. I think it's one of the best things for you that you don't get overworked, that you're doing the same repetitive movements all the time. How does training fit into the multi-sport athlete, especially when you're kind of transitioning from one sport to the next?
I say that's one of the toughest things that we have to deal with. That's one of the biggest challenges is we've got this great, perfect plan for football players coming out of season. You don't start football. The challenge that they have at the college level is that you have a very small window because spring ball starts sooner and sooner. So you have to, from the end of your bowl game or when you come home for winter break until 1 week before spring ball starts, when the coaches come off the road from recruiting. That's like maybe 2 months. I mean, that's a very small window to make some serious offseason gains. We're a little bit more fortunate where spring ball isn't a whole month, full padded, intense, 4-week season. It's flag football for them at this point. So I don't worry about that part. But like to your point, basketball, wrestling, winter sports, and then you go straight into another season. Well, here's the big question. If not now, when? Because if it's not going to be this season because you're in a sport, it's not going to be next season because it's in a sport. So we're going to wait until the summer. So at some point, there's some sacrifices that have to be made. There's a lot of time management that needs to be put into it. And so it's like, well, you got to find the time. Just like you got to find the calories, you got to find the time. And for someone who's in season, practicing pretty much every day, also having to go into competition, for us, that's training load management is kind of our big thing. It's like, how can we make gains, still get you stronger, not get you hurt, and it still keep you healthy for your season, or at least energetic for your season. But that's kind of the big question is like, well, if it's not going to be this season, if it's not going to be next season, but like, what are we going to wait for? When is a good time to start? And if the answer is there's really not a great time to start, okay, now's the time to start. So let's at least get something done. We may not be benching 300 pounds by the end of our training block, but are we benching 10 pounds more than what we did? And if it's not going to completely deplete, and I'll tell you, there isn't anything that we will do to our kids at this level, especially, that is going to completely deplete a kid from being able to go to practice the next day. We're just not going to be there. As much and as hard as I want to work the guys, get those results, I can't. I have too much stuff going on with other athletes in here at the same time. So it's what is the most appropriate thing in order to get those gains and find them.
And I think go ahead, Dalton. Go ahead.
I was just saying, just bouncing off of that, there never is a time when it's going to be perfect, like in anyone's life, to start training or to transition from one season to the next. But if you look at the demands of the sport, if that is going from in-season football period to an athlete that plays basketball or wrestle right into winter sport, we just have to be smarter about the training. Like, okay, maybe we're not going right into our off-season training, with our 5 as 1 program, but okay, how do we stay strong? And as a strength and conditioning coach, there's some super simple benchmarks that I use in season to make sure we maintain our strength. Strength is actually one of the qualities that will decrease the slowest. Your aerobic capacity and your strength will hang around for a little bit longer than your power, which hangs around for like 15 days before it starts to drop off. And then the next one would be your speed. Your fast twitch goes away the quickest. So if I'm thinking about training an athlete in season, maybe when they're also working or training an athlete out of season for football, when they might be going into another season in sport, is we just think about what is the most important thing to maintain for the following football season. and how do we give that athlete that in doses that they can still handle with the sport they're playing now. And the programs for a football player, same athlete, will take Walker. Let's say Walker comes out of football season and he's going into wrestling. His program going into wrestling might look a little bit different than a football season. Walker's finishing, he's going into basketball. So you just got to be smart, know the demands of the sport that you're going into, but also what are the most important things to hang on to for my primary sport, which in most kids' cases I would assume would be football.
Typically, what would you guys recommend? Let's say season's over for a middle schooler as opposed to maybe season's over for a high school kid. How much time should you just, I'm going to rest. I'm going to, I know middle school football is not going to be as demanding as maybe playing at the varsity level. Let's be real, and there are some kids that are maybe playing varsity and JV right now as they get going into the playoffs, as the high school season's kind of hitting the second half. But like Chris, you've seen a lot of kids come through your facility. How much time should they take, like when the season's over? Okay, you won the state championship, or hey, I got knocked out in the first round of playoffs, whatever it may be. How much time should they just chill?
So it depends on the length of the season. If we're talking, we got into the playoffs and we're looking at an 11 to 15 week season, I want my guys to take at least a week. And maybe that's not just sitting on the couch for a week. Still come in here, we'll move some weights around, we'll do this, we'll do that, but we're not gonna load up the bar. We're not gonna go an hour and a half, 2 hour long workout. Maybe it's just like our pregame or 0 hour workout that Dalton actually made and we still use. Maybe it's something that looks like that, just to keep the blood flowing, get some range of motion, get a little bit of resistance. And then we get into it. We're looking at like when we get started with the 5-1 crew, about 2 weeks, something like that. And then we're rolling into it. But the other big aspect of it is, and this is kind of part of the relationship between athlete and strength coach, or athlete and coach together, is communication. Like, I want to know how do you feel? Because we may go a week and you may still not feel great. And then in which case, maybe we need to take a few more days, or maybe it's just, hey, I feel fine, coach. Let's just get after it. Okay, well, we may not go right into week one, but we can put you on something for a week, and we can get after some weight, and get after some speed. But that's the other piece of it. It's not just me talking to or yelling at the athletes for 12 straight weeks. It's two ways. It's athlete communicating with me about how they feel, and that just makes it a little bit easier to do my job from a program standpoint. So those are kind of the two biggest things. But as a general rule of thumb, I'm going to say a whole week. And then we just kind of feel it out from there.
I think you can go generally based on what they don't get in their sport. So football is going to be, high accelerations. It's going to be a lot of change of direction. It's going to be, maybe for our bigger bodies up front, it's more just force production. You're going to get some compression through the lower back. Shoulders might be beat up, knees, hips, ankles, the whole lower body thing might be beat up. But what I generally give people for, like, if they just come off of a season and they're the type of athlete that likes to continue to train consistently, stay in their routine, I'll say, do whatever you want in the weight room. It has to be with dumbbells, and it has to be for more than 12 reps. And, no one's really going to be able to hurt themselves. Our dumbbells go up to 100 here. They go up to 100 at FYX. Like, yeah, that can be heavy, but, for a high level athlete, you really can't mess yourself up too much with a set of dumbbells and anything over 12 reps. So I think that's fairly safe, just easy. If they want to get some movement in, pick some exercises you like, go crazy. We'll see you next week, and we'll get the barbell out again.
Most definitely. I'd say the wrap-up question that we always ask whenever we have our guys on talking, after we get done talking football, bad jokes that I try to tell, we get our story time and everything. It's the last thing that you would tell for a guy. Say a young guy, he's trying to make his way, he's trying to become, a better player, better athlete, better in some scenario in his game. He wants to be better. what would you say? And you can go into the football mechanics of it. You can go into the strength, conditioning, nutrition, whichever way you want to go with it. But what would be the one thing that you think is important to tell them?
I would say for me to
You
start.
got it.
Yeah.
I was like, me?
No, we're good. I'd say the most important thing for a young athlete of any sport is their movement quality. I think anything that we do, I'm starting to get to be an old man. I'm not gonna say anything about anyone else on here, but I know Clark's old. Oof.
You too, man. Don't worry.
The older we get, the less we want to move. Just in general, and that's the same thing from 7 years old to 18 when they graduate high school, and then they want to move even less as we go. So as a young kid, can you move through a full range of motion of every, can your hip go all the way up? Can your knee flex fully? Can you have full range of motion and shoulder overhead? Do you have the ability to get into the positions that your sport will demand? So for an offensive lineman, you're going to have some mobility through your ankles and your hips. Like, just going to have to, otherwise you won't be able to get into a stance. As let's say I got a 7-footer on my basketball team. All right, you're going to have to pick a ball up off the ground. I need you to be able to get down there. So if you cannot do that at a slow pace, how can I count on you to do that full speed in a competitive game? So I think the most important thing for any young athlete is, can you move well through a full range of motion? We can get strong after that. That's easy.
Definitely. What you got for us, Clark?
I'll fall back on the things I always talked about as a coach. Give me passion, give me effort. I mean, if you're gonna, there's a saying in the fitness world, we'll use it in the strength and conditioning world. The hardest thing about working out is just getting there. Once you're here, yep, give me everything you got. I mean, it may only be a 45-minute workout, it may be an hour and a half workout, but give me full effort. I mean, if you're going to give full effort on the football field, you're going to give full effort in the practice for the most part. Why not continue that trend and just give me full effort in here as well? It's easy to say no. It's easy to back off and not load the bar the way you're supposed to, maybe not move at the speed you're supposed to, because it's easier to do. And, kind of another coachism, if it was easier, everybody would do it. But, we're not here. This is not the place to do things because it's easier, do things because I'm comfortable doing it. It's important to learn how to get uncomfortable, especially at this level, because when you get to that next level, it's uncomfortable the whole way. I mean,
Living the suck, man.
Yep.
We used to have those shirts all day.
I mean, Walker's uncomfortable. He was uncomfortable on day one. I mean, and that's the other thing about it, is like, what true freshman is comfortable going on the road and being the dude starting as a true freshman? Oh, by the way, you're going to Athens this weekend and you're the long snapper and the short snapper. Don't screw it up.
There were a lot more long snaps than short snaps in that game. So let's just get that.
I didn't want to be the one to say it. I didn't want to say it.
You know what? My man got a real taste of it this past week. I'm super proud of them. They got to bounce back, but that's the SEC, and that's, if you want to play at that level, buckle up. It's every play is 4th and 1. I mean, that's the way it is. Every day is, every moment at the facility, it's 4th and 1. Like, you've got, if you want to play at the highest level, Gerald, you and I were in the NFL for a cup of coffee. Like, there are guys that have it mastered, and it's like, you've got to take your training, you got to take your nutrition, you got to take your finances, you got to take, your study time. It all has to mean so much more to you if you want those. Everybody wants it, but it's, what are you going to put into it before it happens?
Definitely. And since I'm not as good at this as Jaime is, how he is throwing sponsors in left to right, I'm going to just have to throw mine in right now. Okay. We got Ray Clowther and Tip of the Spear blast shields. Blast shields allow coaches and players to take the most dominant techniques in the game into their own hands during practice and their training sessions. So I guess I can try to tie it in. We're talking about just the that big step, that next step. Always, you have to be able to use every you have to be able to use every opportunity, every skill, every kind of tool that you have, in your arsenal, so you're able to just to do well and keep moving forward. And yeah, definitely. I was happy to see young Buck out there balling and playing good football. It was a little hard seeing all those punts have to go up, but I mean that's just how the games sometimes roll, right?
You got to roll with it, and it's about just growing from every opportunity. Every workout, every game, every practice, and that's one of the things that Gerald, I love that we both train the kids in town here. They get a perspective from me. They also get something from you. That they're doing a lot of recovery work with you during the weekends right now in season. And then we're going to call in the experts and to have Chris and his staff at FYX to be able to now transition not only what we're doing on the turf with the technical part of the offensive line and tight end training that we're doing, but also guys with their background and what they're going to be able to bring to these athletes here in Colorado. But when we expand our training, when it's going to California, when we've got guys in Georgia, when we've got guys in the Carolinas and back in Texas, that there are resources of coaches that are going to help our players that train with 5 as 1 be the best that they can be. And I'm not going to have every answer. Gerald, you coach things a little different. There's not always just a cookie cutter way to say something. Chris, you've got one way you're going to train guys. You're going to bounce ideas off Dalton. Dalton, you picked up so much from Jason Dill and Chris Clark at FYX, and then where the places that you've gone. This is all about helping our athletes maximize their potential, and that's why I wanted to get all you guys on the episode today. Dalton, it's good to see you. It's been a while since we've been in contact. I think maybe last time I saw you was your going away party, and it was the arm farm.
We were arm farming. You bet.
The arm farm to send you out on the road to send you to California, because you can't roll in there without cutting off sleeves. Apparently, Chris is all the way out to Hawaii with his backdrop. But man, it's good to have you guys on here together. Appreciate the time, and I know Dalton, it's busy for you right now. You guys are getting ready to roll, and it's happening fast. Basketball season's long. You have got some great insight to it. I appreciate your expertise, and man, it's great to have you on.
Yeah, it's nice to see you guys. Nice to meet you, Gerald.
Nice to meet you too, brother.
And thank you for letting me talk for a little bit. I know I'm still young in the game, but it's always good to chop it up and learn. Like, I don't have as much football experience as I did probably 5 years ago. I'm real deep in basketball now, so it's always good to talk some football.
Well, it's good that they have some young blood in here, since you pointed out that some people are older on this episode than others. But
he said old. He didn't say older. He said old.
Old. I appreciate that. Old. Thanks, Gerald.
Sorry, Claire.
Well, I always say it's not the years, it's the miles of this guy.
Is that what it is?
Been around the world 3 times. That's a lot of miles, man.
That is miles. God bless.
Well, guys, with your experience, Chris, it's great to have you on, man. And you're just such a great resource for us to have for our athletes that train with 5 as 1 here in Colorado. And we're excited about the new program, the new off-season program that kids are going to start joining in. We've got the middle schooler package getting ready to go very soon, since their seasons are done. And then hopefully every high school kid plays every game to its fullest. But after the season's over, there needs to be a transition time, because training's got to pick up. You got to recover, and then making that emphasis with our training, Gerald, with how we're going to transition into ramping it up a little bit more, because right now a lot of what we do is maintenance. And so just understanding the calendar, understanding the schedule, having guys like this as resources, I think is what makes 5 as 1 really something special for the kids that come and train with us. So, Chris, thanks for jumping on board, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you guys so much. This was great. Jaime, was it not good? I enjoyed myself. Hey. We got to talk. We got to tell, a couple jokes here and there. It was good.
And with that being said, Gerald, you keep it coming strong, and looking forward to more training as we move forward. And we'll check in here in the next couple episodes as college football cranks up, and we'll see maybe if TCU can get hot again, Chris, to maybe make another reappearance in the postseason.
Maybe Nebraska somehow makes it to the playoffs. Nobody knows yet. We don't know yet, right?
How about a TCU Nebraska bowl game?
Oh,
Now
That's gonna be
now we're actually talking about something that could happen.
okay.
It'd be like,
And then USC, they actually take it all the way.
We'll see.
Yeah.
They got the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. We'll see if we can piece it together here. They had to work a couple triple overtimes to beat the Wildcats from Arizona, but we'll see. Big matchup with Notre Dame, and the season is cranking along. And we wish UC Irvine all the best with the Hoop Squad. And we'll catch up with everybody soon. And with that being said, thanks for jumping on board tonight.
you bet. Take care. Thank you.
See you guys.